Hello, I'm Anna Marie De La Vega, and this is Focus. Thank you so much for joining us. Today, we have a repeat customer. It's Paris Jackson. She is a financial advisor. She's with Northwestern Mutual, and we're going to talk more about your budget and what if you have already gotten your budget completely derailed, maybe by things that happened or some poor choices. And we'll look at some of those poor choices and situations that come up and what to do about them. First, welcome, Paris Jackson.
Thank you, Anna.
Yay.
Thank you.
So glad that you come back and talk with us and help us out. So somebody right now is in a bind. They're in a financial situation and they've got bills. They're like, I can't deal with that right now. Maybe we can look at maybe student loans. People have student loans. What do they do? Where do they start?
So regardless of what the thing is, it could be student loans, it could be, a mortgage, some credit card debt. We have to face the music.
No.
Yeah. Writing everything down and looking at it and making an assessment of what you have going out versus what you have coming in, which is essentially the budget, is the first start. And then after that, a lot of my clients either do this on their own or they do it with me. We're going to sit down and figure out ways to kind of trim the fat on that budget and say, hey, maybe for a couple of months, this area can supplement because now, student loans are coming into a play for a lot of people. Yeah. We have to kind of reorganize the budget so that some things are made available. You may not necessarily have to get another job, but just look at what you have, see what's, who's charging you multiple times through your bank account, because sometimes we have some subscriptions that we don't know are coming out. We may have, a bill or something we signed up for 5 years ago that comes out annually, and we never know that we're missing that money. So just doing a full assessment of your budget, looking through your bank statements and identifying what is actually being charged, and then finding a way to, cancel those things and then repurposing that money to go towards your student loans or credit card debt.
Student loans and credit card debt. And that is a big deal with the subscriptions because they get you. It's so easy to sign up and then they don't even tell you, by the way, next month or in 3 days, that's going to come out of there. They don't give you an option to back out unless you go and look at it and figure it out.
Right. And when you have the money, it's like it doesn't bother you as much. But when your life circumstances change and now you need it, we want to pay attention to things like that. And
so you said something like reassess the budget. So it's not like a hard and fast, you have this much to spend every month for the rest of your life on this. It's not hard. It's not in stone.
No, it's not. A budget is definitely fluid. I'm not sure if we talked about this last time, but for me personally, I sit down at the beginning of every month and make the assessment off of what I know is coming in versus what has to be paid. Yeah. So for me personally, my daughter is heading to college. And there are a lot of expenses that will occur throughout the summer. And so I've adjusted date night. We've adjusted certain things between myself and my husband to make sure that we can cover those expenses without going into debt.
So date night's now popcorn in front of the TV rather than
Netflix and chill. Yeah.
That is so good.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that happens is people have, they make poor choices. Credit card, like I have all the money in the world. There's that credit card, that magic money just appears, and they get in debt, and then they get scared. And sometimes, though, it's like illnesses or it's divorce, and suddenly you've lost an income in your family, or you don't have any income in your family, and or it's health issues that suddenly here are these big old fat hospital and medical bills, and you don't know what to do. So it still goes back to the bottom line of reassessing your budget.
Partly. I think some of it is assessing, what programs do you have in place. Insurance is something that is really, really important, whether we're talking, healthcare insurance or even disability. A lot of people go down for illnesses that they, of course, are not expecting. I could have a major back injury. I could have something go wrong with my hands if I'm a surgeon. But there are things that we can put in place that protects our income so that if that does occur, at least we know we can still pay the bills. But as far as the healthcare, we need to assess what we're paying. It's kind of like auto insurance, right? You may get liability versus full coverage. And what does that do when in the time of need? So is it worth it for me, if I can afford it, to pay more for full coverage and know that regardless of what happens, I'm not going to come out of pocket outside of that deductible
Oh.
versus, if I only get liability and something happens, I'm going to pay more and that's going to cause more damage in the long run. So I definitely would assess my health insurance, see if I can find ways to pay a few more dollars to get a little bit more coverage, and then also look at whether or not my income is protected through disability insurance.
So disability insurance, can you get that on the marketplace, or is that just through a private company, or what?
So most people have that offered through their employer, but the employer only typically offers 60% coverage. And so the supplemental portion to make sure that you can have that income replaced does come through the marketplace.
So what if you're retired?
So if you're retired, yeah, that's definitely a different story. You won't be able to utilize disability income because it has to come from, somebody who is employed.
Yeah.
But maybe you're doing something part-time and you want to look at something like disability income, you can get it through the marketplace. But the older you are, one, the harder it is to obtain and the more that it costs.
What about repurposing the budget when you're on such a limited income for older people?
Right. We deal with this a lot. And so oftentimes it's really about trimming. Maybe the period of trimming is longer. Instead of a 3-month stand, it might be 6 months just to get where we can be. And then oftentimes what works for a lot of my clients is talking to other family members. I may have, as an older person, I may have children who can help, start to prepare for the things that maybe I didn't prepare for because I didn't have the education or wasn't fully aware of what was available to me. And so having family conversation often can ease the burden on an older person because they don't have as much recovery time, to catch up. And so for someone like me, I love my mom, love my dad. If they needed something and it's something that I can plan for within my budget because I have a longer runway, then maybe we can supplement that way.
Whoa. So talk to your family.
Talk to your family.
Your community. Repurposing part where you're saying like maybe you trim this out or you trim that out. Maybe it's a longer trim than a shorter trim. Give me some more ideas, could you, of things that we might trim, like the subscriptions. That's a very, very good one. The annual bills. I had one recently. The $10 for the first year. And then they didn't remind me they weren't supposed to because that's how they work. Then suddenly there was $40 taken out. Continuing your subscription. I'm like, no. So the annual stuff as well.
Right.
It'll get you. Are there other things that tend to be kind of typical things that we might miss?
Yes. Credit cards. Some credit cards charge fees just to maintain them. And we can, look at another source, transfer, balances to somebody who's not going to charge me an annual fee because oftentimes that's, $90 to $150 a year. And again, it's charged out of the blue and we forget about it. But that $150 can be the difference between me, having enough money for groceries for that particular month. And speaking of groceries, that's another area that can be trimmed depending on what you have going on. And I'm fully aware that the summertime differs for a lot of people, but just, making a menu, doing something fun with the kids, like, hey, what can we do for the week? Like, what is the menu going to look like? And then utilizing sources outside like AI to find places where I can get things for cheap or things that are on sale right now. Maybe I can get, bread when it's buy one, get one free and toss it in the freezer.
Yeah.
Or just finding ways to trim from grocery stores because a lot of times there are digital coupons available and we just go in because of time, we shop, maybe online or in person, and there's ways to cut that bill down.
Okay. And I think a lot of people, if you're just joining us, this is financial advisor Paris Jackson. She's with Northwestern Mutual, and right now she's with us, helping us out. I think a lot of people are intimidated by AI, but bottom line, what AI does for many individuals who are not getting into it a lot, it searches the internet for you.
It does.
So if you don't have that, and if you are intimidated by that, just Google, just search, use your search engine, and look for coupons for bread or stores, stores near me, or discount days or something like that.
Or even your favorite store. Every store has a website now. You can go online to Kroger or Publix and identify what the deals of the day are. And then maybe take a little bit more work to target your shopping for, the buy one, get one free deals. Yeah. But it still helps save some money.
Yeah. Okay, good. The other thing we wanted to talk about was before you can do all this, you have to know you have to have your budget.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I want you to talk us through, give us some tools and some starting points so we can create a budget to start with, because we don't know what's going out. We don't know what's coming in. We know what's coming in, not enough.
Right.
We know what's going out, too much. How can we figure that out and get it all down on paper? Because it's scary.
So I think the first thing, Anna, is the battle of the mind. Conquering before you even start going into the budget is knowing, hey, whatever has happened has happened. Whatever, I'm spending my money on, I've spent it on, because you have to go into this realistically and being able to identify where everything is, because if we can't capture the full picture, then the plan afterwards won't make sense, right?
Oh.
So it's very important to know going in that this is something that I want, and also something that I need for my present and future. And then after that, identifying what type of learner you are with respect to your budget. Maybe you're somebody who wants to do it on the computer because it can auto, calculate for you. Or you're somebody, I just want to write everything out. Whatever works for you, as long as you have a template to go off of and you have a way to capture everything that you're paying for, I think that's the best starting point. And then after that, setting a rhythm to do this on a monthly basis or weekly, however often you get paid. Some people get paid weekly and they have to do their budget weekly. Some people get paid monthly and it makes more sense to look at it once a month. And some people get paid once a month, but their bills, they can't pay all of the bills at the first, depending on what the due date is. And so if that's the starting point, I've outlined everything that's coming out. Next is coming up with the plan. And that's where it's going to differ for everybody. Maybe I talk to a friend who has some experience with budgeting to help me figure out like what's next. Where would you trim if this was your budget? Would I start with groceries or do I start with subscriptions? Because maybe I have kids and it's the summertime and I need the Netflix to keep them occupied, because we won't be able to go and, spend money going to the beach or what have you.
Yeah.
And so different seasons call for different trimmings. And so, identifying who can help you identify the changes that are needed in your budget. It may be a best friend. It may be a financial advisor. It may be somebody older with wisdom who's, been doing this for a long time, but find somebody who's successful at it to help you and allow that person to be your accountability partner. Allow them to tell you, hey, this is what needs to change, and then be receptive to those changes.
Oh, I think there are two parts to that it might be hard to find a friend who's doing it
right
and doing it right. And I think sometimes thinking about a financial advisor, we've kind of touched on this before. People think I don't have enough money to manage.
Right.
I don't have enough money for somebody to advise me on how to do anything with it, because it's just my monthly money that I have, that I get. And I think they're intimidated, and don't get mad at me. I guess they might be intimidated by you.
Right.
By the person that they're talking to as a financial advisor, because you look like you have it all together, like you know so much. You're that I might feel like, well, you're going to judge me if I tell you, if you see all my crap. I know that the saying in therapy, you can't heal and hide at the same time.
Right.
So I want to hide it. But then I'm going to bear it to somebody who knows exactly what I've been up to. I've been wasting it there, and I've been wasting it there. I think it's intimidating.
And it can be. I know I can't speak for every advisor. For me personally, I've been where everybody is or coming from. I've had the experience of debt. I know what it feels like to have the pressure on you to get your kids through school and make all the events and be able to pay for things when you don't necessarily have it all. And so personally, I'm not a judgmental person with respect to finances. I just require honesty so we can make the best plan moving forward. And if you're somebody who doesn't want to face the music with a financial advisor, there's so many financial counseling services, financial coaches that you can meet with. They're not necessarily licensed in this area, but they can help you because that's what they do. They look at budgets, they look at, debt reduction plans. And so those people in particular, that's literally their job, right? They are not focused on helping you grow wealth. They're just helping you identify what it is that needs to be done so you can start making the right changes.
Okay, so get your mind right and know what you've spent is spent. You're not going to be able to undo that. And you can go like, well, I just feel bad about that. I don't even want to think about whatever. but that is what it is. And what did you call it? You face the money or something like that?
Face the music.
Face the music.
Yeah.
And deal with it. Just put it out there and look at it. Now, if I'm writing it down, if I'm making a budget, are there some tools that you might recommend we could find, like at Northwestern Mutual site or online somewhere? We can here's how you do a basic budget. Because I'm going to tell you where I get caught with that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, we spent this much at Walmart, and now do we need to figure out what that was so we know how much of that we're going to get every month? And then I get so caught up where I have a million things of outgo. How do you categorize them in a fashion that makes more sense?
And so most banks offer those services. If you log into your bank account, most of my clients, when they're sending me their bank statements, it is categorized by, shopping or internet or entertainment. But if we're trying to get down to the nitty gritty within each category, I haven't personally found an app that does that. I do believe there are some out there. Mm-hmm. And so Googling will probably assist anybody who needs to break it down. When I was going through it, I just wrote the categories on a piece of paper. And then within each category, I wrote down what was coming out for that particular thing. So if it was subscriptions, I went through and looked for Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, HBO Max, those things, and then totaling that on a piece of paper. And then when I moved to the digital budget, I can put the lump sum number into the category. So I would just write subscriptions and have the total, but on my piece of paper, I would have the breakdown.
Okay, so I don't have to go that in depth to it, because it'll be like personal items or household. What is that categorized as? Things you need around you: shampoo and the dog food. The dog food's groceries, and the shampoo is what, personal items? Or?
So personal care, and it differs for some people. Some people do, like in my household, we do a Sam's Run, and the Sam's Run is for the big bulk items, which could be considered groceries or personal care, depending on who you talk to. Yeah. And then everything else, like food-wise, is bought from somewhere else. So the budget sheet that I use with clients is editable. And so you can make the categories that fit you. It has, some of the most basic categories: insurances, rent, electricity, water. And then it has an area for personal care. But if we're in the space where we're trying to identify how much of that personal care is actually necessary, then we need to break it out. And oftentimes it'll be hard to find a digital budget form that will allow you to capture everything in one place.
Yes.
Which is why that side piece of paper may be necessary to break it out, so we can see where we can trim the fat and then put the money back into the budget as a solid number for whatever that category is.
Oh, so I'm going to trim the extra hairspray for 3 months, and that's going to be this much, or the extra this hair visits or whatever for 3 months, and that's going to be this much. I'm going to take that out. So now my final there just goes into personal care on my budget.
And so personal care can include like a massage or therapy or, I forgot some of the other categories, but when I break it out on the sheet that I use, I separate massages, I separate therapy, I separate, shopping, if it's shopping just for work attire. Yeah. And it's not something like I'm buying the kids clothes every 3 months. Those things need to be separated. So I do ask a lot of in-depth questions because that's the best way to find the money to repurpose.
Okay. If you're just joining us, by the way, we're talking with financial advisor Paris Jackson. She's with Northwestern Mutual, and we're talking about budgeting. And we started off really talking about if you're behind and if you're under the gun and you're struggling. But so what if you're getting this under control? You get to the point you're getting under control. You think, well, I really would like to invest to have some retirement money, to have college money later. I want to have the bigger amounts of money somewhere in my life. How do we make that transition?
And so that transition is definitely sitting down, either if you're fluent enough to make those decisions, where to put your money in a high yield savings, a lot about investing. There are what we consider do-it-yourselfers.
Wow, yeah.
But for everybody else, connecting with a reputable professional is the first step, because oftentimes we focus on a budget and we think that's for people who don't or can't manage their money. But people who are watching their future while in their present are the people who maintain budgets, because we don't want to get in a space where even if I have a lot of money, I'm wasting the money on things that could be utilized for my future. A lot of people say, hey, I don't want to work until I'm 65. Well, let's look at your budget. Let's see what we're doing with our money now that may allow us to retire at 60 or 57, because a couple extra $100 a month going into your investments or protecting yourself from a healthcare perspective for long-term care or life insurance or whatever it is, like just repurposing the money, even if I have it, is such an amazing thing.
Wow.
We talked about this before, but making your budget respect you and not the other way around. So regardless of whether you have a lot left over or just a little bit, I think a budget is necessary.
Yeah, because I'm thinking of thousands of dollars spent at like Home Goods and Marshalls and TJ Maxx and places that I didn't need this stuff. It was pretty. It was tchotchkes. It was like, this is pretty and it makes me feel good. And we went shopping and we hung out and we visited with my friends and stuff.
Yeah.
But really, that was a whole lump sum probably every month, especially while I was getting my household set up, probably every month, a lump sum that I could have invested if I had known and had been on the ball with that.
Yes.
If I'd had an advisor like Paris Jackson. So you don't have to be struggling. You don't have to be rich. You just need to get your budget going.
Yes, and get in the right mindset that you want your money working for you and not the other way around.
And me working for my money, meaning like what? Like I'm just working to get it and then it's just going
and
away.
It's just disappearing versus working and giving the money an assignment so that later you can relax and chill instead of worrying when you get into your most vulnerable state. A lot of people, we're invincible when we're young. And we think that we have so much time. And even if you do have a lot of time, the things that you don't want to worry about, you don't know that you don't want to worry about those things yet. But we work with clients of all ages, and you're at your most vulnerable state when you're nearing retirement.
Yeah.
And so making the right decisions now and slowly inching your way towards the goal versus trying to, rapid fire because we didn't make the best decisions in the beginning is always best, slow and steady.
Well, plus, when you start to get older, your income may decrease.
Yeah.
And your opportunity to go work 4 jobs like you did when you were younger it probably decreases. So can I go back to where you said give your money an assignment? What is, break that down for, I'm going to give what? This $100 has an assignment to buy my groceries. This $100 has an assignment to go into savings.
Right. And so identifying what you need and breaking everything down. One of the major assignments that people miss is, of course, their emergency fund. There's an assignment often missing for retirement. There's an assignment often missing for, preparing for health insurance, life insurance, disability insurances, and then making everything else work around those things because those are the needs and essentially the financial foundations. If any of those areas are struck for you at the wrong time, it's going to cause financial devastation. So if I have, a 2-income household or even a 1-income household and something happens to one of those income earners, my life is now significantly disrupted. And imagine if I could only have taken $20 to, protect something else by looking at my budget and saying, hey, let me repurpose and make sure all of those areas are covered. And then maybe I may want to, but I don't get to spend $300 at TJ Maxx. I can only spend $2 because I am an advocate of living. You have to live, but we live wisely.
Do you think part of this and the assignment that triggered something and made the assignment comes from you, or your former military?
Yes.
What did you do? Can I ask you? Can you tell me about that?
Yeah, I was a financial manager in the military as well.
In the military?
Yeah.
Oh my. I bet that was desperately needed. You have all these young people going into the military. They hadn't had a chance to get anything together.
Yeah.
And then they had a specific income and they had to make everything work.
Yeah. And oftentimes what I've noticed is some people, because there's a steady income, whether it's the military or not, we just think, hey, the next paycheck is always going to be able to cover me. With respect to the civilian sector, and we talked about this a lot in the beginning, we don't know what's going to happen to us individually. We don't know if we're going to wake up the next day and then not be able to work for 5 months. And where does that income come from? So well beyond what a budget is and well beyond just giving the money an assignment, understand why that assignment is there so that when you commit to it, it's likely to stick because you understand the why.
Understand the why. We're back to that.
Yeah.
Why am I putting this $100 here? Because if I have a health issue or am disabled or my job goes away, which a lot of people have been dealing with. Their jobs went away. Technology just bypassed it. Like, we don't need you. This can do it better. And the job you thought you would have till you retired, and the 401k and all of that just goes away.
Right, which is why it's even more important to have multiple spaces where we're putting away money. The 401k has now been utilized more so as the transition money for a lot of people, because we didn't fully assess and make sure that I was also putting money in my emergency fund, right? So that if I needed transition money, I could pull from this resource and not the one that I needed for my longevity.
Oh, one of your things that you said to me earlier in one of our earlier interviews, and I think is worth repeating, is you said start where you are.
Right. It's overwhelming. And there's no other way to put finances, and money is overwhelming. It's also very, very intimate. And so you have to do a couple of things when you're assessing your budget. You're being honest with yourself, but you're also exposing your life's decisions to other people. And so sometimes, people are embarrassed because they didn't make the right decisions, but there are a lot of things that people have done. And I am a fan of a good comeback story. And so the people that have learned the lesson tend to not repeat because they felt and they know what it feels like. And for me, that's why I'm in this business. I know what it feels like. I know what it feels like to be worried. I know what it feels like to be like, man, I want to give my kids better than I had, but I didn't necessarily make the wise decisions because I didn't have the education. I know what it feels like to be worried about parents who can't take care of themselves. Like, this stuff is real, but it doesn't go away by ignoring it. And so and that's what I was saying about the mindset. Like, let's tackle that first, going in knowing this is something that I have to do, and whatever comes of it is what comes of it.
And I'm glad you brought out education, because there's shame and there's guilt over not making the right decisions. And like, here I am now. I should be here. I should be there. I could be this. The shoulda, coulda, wouldas, but you're not. So you look at it at where you are now. The education, you didn't know. I think most of us did not know. We didn't know what we didn't know. We had no idea that I'm going to need to do this in the future, or here's how to do this. Didn't know how to do this, or I might have.
And there's a question that I ask a lot of clients about, their childhood and what they saw with respect to money growing up.
Oh, boy.
And oftentimes they always said money was separated. The conversations, between mom and dad, or mom was not discussed with the kids. And I completely understand that. And it was like, hey, when I'm leaving, I'm getting ready to graduate and I'm about to be on my own, make sure you save your money. The guidance was there, but how do I execute that?
That's
right.
It.
And so there's so many things, so many narratives you can find on the internet, but what does that mean to me personally? And that's where most of my clients have found that a relationship with a financial advisor can be fruitful, because I can personalize the experience of life, not just where I am right now, but what happens when things change in 2026 or in 2027 and I need some adjustments, and I may not. It's not even oftentimes that I don't know. I may not have the time, because if I'm focusing on my business and my kids and my spouse and everything else that's going on in life, I may not have time to do the things that are necessary to make the right assessment. So why not pair, right? We don't go out and get a medical degree to figure out our own health care, right? Somebody is assigned to do that, who we hired through whatever insurance. You got paid to do that. You went to school to figure all of that stuff out. And essentially that's what a financial advisor does. A lot of people may use AI, but it's not personalized to you. It doesn't track all of your circumstances and changes. And a financial advisor can help keep the emotion at bay. A lot of times we get scared and fearful, and we make knee-jerk reactions and knee-jerk moves to our budget that may, hurt us in the long run. But I am here to assist you, make sure that we do things wisely and make the best decision when life does change, because we know that is going to happen.
That you are our money doctor.
Yeah. I love that.
You've gotten the training, you've gotten the education, and we don't have to feel bad that we don't know how to execute these things.
Yes.
Oh,
perfect.
You're wonderful. Well, we're out of time. It always goes so fast. Financial advisor Paris Jackson with Northwestern Mutual. I appreciate Northwestern Mutual letting you come be with us. They're just like, okay, go ahead. But thank you. I know what you're doing is changing lives.
You're more than welcome. Thank you so much, Anna.
We're going to post some more information on our Focus Facebook page. Please make sure you join us again next week. I'm Anna Marie. That's Focus.